And it's time to start this 50th day of conferences and panels in the Latino Leaders Latino Franchise Symposium. I am Jorge Ferraez, publisher of Latino Leaders Magazine, and I'm very, very happy to welcome all the participants that we have both in our platforms in Facebook, through YouTube, and also through our website. So thank you very much for joining us. We've been having a terrific week of with stories and lessons and experience from people that are experts in different areas. And we're arriving to this Friday with a lot of new things that we didn't know, and a lot of comments and a lot of good ideas, and many other experiences that had been shared. And for this morning, to kick off this morning on Friday, I have a wonderful panel, a 3 experts panel on the topic that I really most enjoy, which is precisely marketing, and especially Hispanic marketing. And it's not something that you can find easily. I want to say that these 3 experts are coming from different backgrounds, but with a lot of experience, and they work and have worked with the most prominent and well-noted companies, both in advertising and also with serving clients that are top-notch, Fortune 500 companies all over the world. So we are bringing you a very, very interesting panel that I know you will enjoy. So I want to give a very warm welcome to my first panelist, Trinidad Aguirre. Trinidad is an executive marketer, and he is also a military veteran, and that has collaborated with well-known global brands in diverse industries, as I was mentioning you before. He now partners with business leaders to boost their ROI using data-driven strategies to target the emerging Hispanic market. Trinidad, thank you very much and welcome. My second panelist is Francisco Cardenas. He is a principal of social media strategy at Lerma. Pancho is an experienced digital marketer. He has worked in accounts like Avocados from Mexico, Barcel, Banco Copel, Clamato, Dr. Pepper, Metro by T-Mobile, and Southwest Airlines. He is a veteran also in this industry and works with one of the most recognized firms in Dallas, Lerma. And he is one of the leaders of the team behind Avocados from Mexico. Welcome, Pancho, and happy to have you here again. And I also have the privilege to welcome Quim Hill. Quim is principal of brand planning and strategy, also at Lerma here in Dallas, Texas. He's originally from Spain and started very, very young working in advertising agencies like McCann Erickson and Ogilvy and Mather. And he has a full multicultural experience as a marketer in global experience and global vision, both in Europe and in the Americas. And he has worked with brands like Bud Light, Danone, Unilever, and he also is a music lover, and that is something very special of his personality. So, gentlemen, happy Friday, and welcome you 3 to this great panel. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, I would like to start with Trinidad. I know he has some slides to share with us about his work and his vision. So Trinidad, if you want to start your presentation, feel welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for that warm introduction. And I'm very excited to talk to all of you guys about, Hispanic marketing, and just provide some general viewpoints, that most folks, especially as you're starting to think about this valuable segment. And, the biggest thing is, these big three things in my experience that most folks have. For example, I don't know how to start. I don't even know how to invest, or I don't know how to properly connect or engage, or, I don't know how to get a maximum ROI because maybe I've done it in the past and just, it just didn't do anything for me. So, if these sound familiar, then we're in the right place, because I think with the lineup that we have here is going to help provide some insights on how we can impact this very valuable market. But I mean, the key thing is it's not your fault. I mean, the last 10, 15 years, we've been hovering on certain myths. Myth one I like to call is this one size fits all strategy. It's very prevalent in my days, working for some major corporations like Verizon and some others, that, we believe that if we go into impact the Hispanic marketing, it should look the same coast to coast. And that cannot be further from the truth when we know how diverse we are. We know how culturally different and our affiliations to our respective cultures are, and our heritage matters. So to think that if we're going to use, collateral that may work, say in California, may look and feel very different than our friends in Florida or in New York, right? There, you just see this. I put some high level numbers that, no doubt these are the top states, in fact, that we should be talking about, but the non-Mexican, Mexican and non-Mexican origin is vastly different. And just because we go into New York or Florida doesn't mean that, okay, it must be all Puerto Rican descent or all Cuban descent. That is far further from the truth. So when you think about from a local strategy, really what does the culture look like within a 10-mile radius from your respective brick and mortar, your restaurant? That's kind of where I would suggest to say, what does my demographic makeup look like and the socioeconomic incomes accordingly? The second myth I have is, okay, well, then all I have to do is market in Spanish, right? That's it. Ya se acabó. No, I'm sorry. No, Hispanics want more than just the language. We want relevant content. I like to say, don't speak Spanish, speak their culture. And keeping to that is to honor the values and traditions, especially as we start to talk about the younger generations, Generation Z, more than the millennials at this point as an emerging market. And I'm going to talk about some of the trends, but the key thing is it shouldn't matter or shouldn't be hyper-focused on Spanish or English. Make it culturally identifiable so that people can make that valuable connection. Sometimes a single word in the headline, hola familia, is all you need to say if you're doing an audio track, as an example. So just, keep those things in mind as you're going through your creative process. And for me, it's, again, the myth three, marketing aimed at Hispanic does not yield a huge ROI. And what I mean by this is, most CMOs, most senior leaders may have considered in the past that Hispanics are niche. We are such a small segment of the marketing budget, and usually the niche market is the first to be cut. So, I would strongly reconsider when you think about from a QSR point of view, the amount of volume and the amount of sales that are driven annually. Just last year alone, 20% in QSR sales alone that coming from Hispanics. And then again, 6.3 visits per month. We often over-index in a myriad of different channels. It's often that I have conversations with my customers. If you go and look at the data, look beyond, we often spend more and engage more than what we would consider the general population. So if you do your due diligence from a data-centric point of view, you're going to see some heavy value and targeting and delivering more effective targeting, such as being family-oriented or whether you're Spanish or English dominant. And as I talked about the audience, it's the fastest growing segment that you cannot afford to ignore. And these are just general census stats. 56% explosive growth over the last 2 decades, 62% projected growth over the next 5 years. So the segment right now is 19%. It's the largest minority population, minority group in the US population today. It is one that will drive consumer purchasing power. The lifetime value is extraordinary. In fact, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. Or actually, I take it back. I talk about diversity. Again, this is where the breakdown goes down. Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Salvadorian. I mean, these are some powerful numbers when you think about a one-size-fits-all versus a relevant content marketing strategy for your respective region. What's cool, what's interesting about this, though, is besides the numbers, is that 64% don't consider themselves, they consider themselves American and not Hispanic. So what does that tell me is that, you know, as a culturation, as we start to have more generations, stem from our, from our backgrounds, that it's important to recognize, doesn't mean that we're ignoring our culture, but, it's not to necessarily classify them up. This is a Hispanic initiative. This is really about just a marketing initiative, trying to get the consumers to meet your business objective. Your top 5 states, or your top 4 states here is California, Texas, Florida, New Mexico. And New Mexico is interesting in terms of the Hispanic density. And then there's 8 other states. This has grown since the last time I've talked. It's added actually 3 more states. Last time I looked at these numbers, as I was updating this, the density and the population growth is exploding from the graph I just shared before. This is one that kind of blows my mind. So not only are 61% of the audience younger than 35, 24% are millennial population, and by 2025, 27%. But every 30 seconds, this is a stat you may not have heard before, every 30 seconds, a Hispanic youth turns 18. So when you think about consumer purchasing power, when you think about effective buying power, we still have another 55 years versus the general population of non-Hispanic white. When you look at the most common age of Hispanics, the most common age for a non-Hispanic white right now is 58 years old. The most common age for the Hispanic population is 11. So when you start to do that math and you start to think about trajectory and growth population and explosion, those are numbers that are hard to ignore. And again, I talked about the purchasing power. That's kind of hard to ignore when you think about building a relationship with this respective audience, one that I think we all should consider. Again, the Hispanic audience, Generation Z, is the rise of the super consumer. Pre-COVID, they were responsible for roughly $143 billion in both direct and indirect spending power. 91% are likely to consume English-speaking digital media, which we know, and it's true to the general population today. But again, as I said earlier, we want to place a high value on their ethnic background, community, and cultural roots. Because again, this is going to be a high value segment for all of our marketing efforts going forward. So what are some key strategies to impact this powerful demographic? So don't think of it again as Hispanic marketing. Think of it as cultural marketing, because the key point is not to define yourself as one stereotype, but the expression for individuals is to experiment, because Generation Z is considered identity nomads. They're still discovering themselves. They're still discovering and experimenting on who they are. And the second point is, of course, digital natives, more likely than Hispanic millennials to be on a mobile device 16 hours per week. We Are Me Too is one of many examples that you can look into, but 62% consider their mobile device their primary source of entertainment, more than TV. So when we think about some of the traditional advertising we do, such as Univision, Telemundo, and so on and so forth, it may be good to experiment and to divert some of those traditional funding into more of a digital mainstream. And then on the last couple of slides, the shopping attitudes, from a health and dining perspective, 50% are more likely to dine out 4 times per week. The more traditional families, 24% are more likely to feel guilty when they're not cooking. And, we're not likely to, look at our diets, not to say that we should take advantage of that, but these are just interesting stats that, when we look at healthy eating and healthy living. But we are avid shoppers online. online shopping with 91%, 91 index, 50% online shopping. We are coupon hunters. We over-index tremendously in both categories, whether you're using Groupon or another coupon channel, well over 123%, which means that we're more likely to use a coupon than the general demographic. So I'll leave you with this. Start building that relationship. Everybody wins. I would strongly encourage to be local, be relevant, be authentic, and be connected. If nothing else, if you remember those 4 points, you should be on the right path to source success for your respective lines of businesses.
All right. Thank you, Trinidad. That's I think that was very revealing in certain things. I was impressed about the amount of Latinos from Mexican origin that live here. 37 million is bigger than many countries, right? So is it like a country inside another country? It's amazing.
And it continues to compound upon each other every year. It's just accelerating right now.
Yeah.
So which makes it very hard and almost impossible to ignore. So that's why I get excited. There's so much possibility and the building blocks to start now are there. So key is to start.
Excellent. Well, I have some comments, but let's continue to Quim, who has also a presentation. So Quim, welcome, and thank you for participating. And please go ahead when you're ready.
Sure. Just give me 1 sec. I will share my screen. And let me start by saying, well, this works, hopefully. I'm just playing here a bit with, there you go. You guys can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just start by saying that, everything that Trinidad mentioned is super important. And I want to reiterate that. And it's urgent. To all the whites listening to us in the room, you're set to become a minority in no time. And I think that, probably for some people that's scary. To me, that's exciting. If you look into, all societies in the world, not just the US, whenever they went through radical shifts that were positive in terms of, social shifts, economical shifts, those were, mostly always driven by multiculturalism, by different cultures clashing, sharing, contaminating in a good way each other. So, as marketeers, as, business owners, as people with franchises, we need to not only, embrace that, but also to use it in our advantage. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the consequences of what Trinidad exposed, which is this. Like right now, the mainstream in the US is what you have in front of your screen. So we're talking about, sorry, is that a call? I should disconnect that. Sorry about that. This always happens in these meetings. So, sorry, this is the mainstream right now. And it's Hamilton, and it's, if you look into cooking, if you look into any, cultural department, that's going to be, I wouldn't say completely shaped by Hispanics, but right now heavily influenced, right? And that's not going to stop. And as people as business owners, as people that want to connect with society in the future, because the future is multicultural, you will ask yourselves, well, should I do this? My efforts in English, in Spanish, is it enough with just having a few of my in-store materials in their language, or just a couple of products that have nods to different cultures? And, at the agency, we did a partnership with the University of Texas in order to, answer those questions and also answer, well, how do Hispanics and other cultures like, African-American or the diverse array of Asian cultures see themselves and would like to be addressed by brands and by businesses, right? And so, as I mentioned, we partnered with the University of Texas in a pretty ambitious, nationally representative, ongoing research initiative, in which we interview, people from all ethnicities, but particularly the young ones, millennials and Gen Z, because that's the future. Like, that's the ones we should care about and define our businesses around, right? And so what we found was something beautiful that Trinidad briefly mentioned, and it's what we call omniculturalism. So the vast majority, I'll give you a percentage in a minute, but the vast majority of Hispanics and also of Asians of those ages, millennials and Gen Z, aspire to be omnicultural. And that means being, in the case of Hispanics, 100% Hispanic and at the same time, 100% American. They're not transitioning and abandoning, Hispanic culture, Hispanic pride, Hispanic heritage to become a cowboy from Ohio, right? So they want to embrace complexity in a very positive way. And that has many consequences. And what you should know is that if we look into particularly Gen Z, it's 78% of them that define themselves as omnicultural, as yes, I want to be both, and I'll be both forever. And that has direct consequences on your business. So will you reach them in English? For sure. Like the majority of, if not all, young Hispanics in the US understand English, and chances are that they're gonna get tons of their content and material in English, but that's not enough. I mean, you will reach them in an efficient way, yes, but if you want to connect emotionally with them, you have to do as they are. You have to reach them as what I call as a sandwich from the American side, and that means in English, and from the Hispanic cultural side. And that means in Spanish, yeah, but not only in Spanish. It means something that Trinidad mentioned. It means that culturally, you have to be relevant to them, because understanding their culture and bringing it to life drives brands' results. So we're talking about money at the end. If in your restaurants, if in your businesses, you feature culturally relevant material, Hispanics or any other culture in the US, they're going to be almost twice more likely to learn more about you, to recommend three times more likely to recommend your business to others, and just to love you and keep on coming to your stores, right, or to your restaurants. So that's really important, and that means not only addressing to them in Spanish, but also leveraging cultural connection points, like food, like cultural insights, like holidays, traditions, like all of that, right? And yes, Spanish is still important. And, while Trinidad mentioned, and it's true that, most of them are going to be English dominant and understand English, they do connect with brands more emotionally when you talk to them also in Spanish, right? So they're going to be more loyal to your businesses. At the end, they're going to love you more. And that's really, all that I wanted to have right now. There's also consequences on the way your businesses can talk to these people and engage with them in social and digital. And Pancho Francisco Cardenas can talk about that.
Thank you. Jorge.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Pancho. That's very impressive, Quim. I mean, that figure on the 100% that aspire to be omnicultural is great, because older generations like mine, for example, we think that it's going to be like a dichotomy, right, in which you won't know where to live more. But I love the example of the sandwich, and I would say, like, what's in the middle of that sandwich between a Mexican or Latino bread and an American maybe bun? I'm sure there's a lot of avocado and salsa and a lot of other things in that sandwich. But Pancho Cardenas, he is also not only a very good friend, also we have the privilege of working with him before, and we know that he has some very, very strong expertise in digital, which seems to be one of the trends of the future, especially for the young generation. So, Pancho, welcome.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me and listening to Trinidad and Quim. I mean, amazingly good points. First, congratulations to everybody in the room. I think franchising and just it's a form of entrepreneurship that I respect a lot because it brings in good and best practices on how to do things, and within marketing that's key. For Gen Z and Hispanics, Kim mentioned whites becoming the minority, and an insight there is like for Gen Z, it might not even matter, right? Like whites might be the minority, but they start to relate, and I've heard Kim mention this in other times. They might try to relate to other values, right? The generation and their digital behaviors and the content they consume starts to bond them stronger than being white or being Asian or being African American, and now it all starts blending within that. So speaking of their tools or franchisers' tools within the digital space and their behaviors, I think you just have to look at what they're doing. We've seen in the last couple of months with the pandemic, you could argue that Gen Z was the best prepared generation for times like this. They were already accustomed of communicating via SMS, using Snapchat, the rise of TikTok, even within a debate that we had with the previous administration on possibly cutting it off. And once it unveiled, it came through and brands jumped on it quickly. So it's just, I think it's a reflection, and when it comes to Hispanic, is the rate of adoption and how natural it comes for this generation to communicate and exchange information, shop, live their daily lives within these platforms is just astonishing. And I think it's also a reflection, a lot of us that started in the market many years ago, the options of content and touch points were a little bit more limited, Univision, Telemundo, and now that's opened up a wide array of touch points, which have also shown that Hispanics are more than just Espanol, are more than just mariachis. They go back and forth. Trinidad mentioned it, language we now recognize it's more of a tool to connect at an emotional level. That's something 100% necessary to create a conversion or to really sell, right? It's one more thing that you have on your toolbox to use to have that connection and possibly bring people to your business. So it's an exciting time going from direct to consumer trends, e-commerce, social e-commerce, being able to deliver and track not only who engages with your content in these platforms, but who actually steps into your business and buys it. So I think Gen Z is something. Observation is something that we need to watch. And execution, right? Test and learn. If I owned a franchise, which I don't, but I'm jealous, I'm always thinking about it. I would always challenge, as well, and bring ideas to the table of what you're seeing at the ground level, right? Behaviors that you're seeing, because that's only going to make the franchise stronger and allow to evolve and digitalize even at a better level the brands that you have committed with. So thank you for having me. I would love, I don't know, Jorge, we're gonna do any questions or anything.
Yeah, of course. I have some comments and then questions, and then we already have like 2 or 3 questions that are coming from the attendees in the other different platforms. But one thing that I related very well with what Trinidad mentioned was the one size fits all strategy. I remember very well one of the first 20 years ago when we launched the magazine, Latino Leaders. We were in a dinner. They invited us to do like a speech or participate in a panel, and I was invited to sit by one of the big sponsors that was a big bank. and this was in in a small city in Michigan. I don't remember the name of the city. However, he was the big banker of the town, and he told me, you know, I already prepared for the Hispanic customers and Hispanic, and I said, oh wow, great. I mean, do you have any Hispanic strategy? He says, well, yeah, I just hired my bilingual cashier. And I said, well, is that all your Spanish strategy? And he told me, yes, yeah. We're now we can speak in Spanish to our customers. And you know, it is something that made me laugh a little bit. It's funny, but at the same time, I think it's admirable, you know, right? Because you know, you have this man who was maybe 70, 75 years old at that time, that was understanding that the world was changing and he needed to do something about it, but he didn't know where to start, as you mentioned, right? So I want to ask to the three of you, I mean, and maybe you can take turns on answer if you want. If you don't have the answer, you can just pass. But what is that main argument that convinces companies and corporations to start doing Hispanic marketing? Is that driven by, you know, by growth and sales, or is it something more cultural inside, or are there some curiosity, or what is that argument that really you feel? Because you as agencies and advisors and publicists, you have been making pitches to all these companies for many years. So what is that common line, that common argument that convinces the big company? I don't know who wants to start.
I'll go first, and you know, it's money, and we've come to, you know, money moves the world, and we've come to a point where we don't have to convince, you know, our clients that much anymore, because it's evident, right? You see the growth figures that Trinidad was, you know, sharing, and the projections. You also see on the media side, on the investment side, that, you know, if you put $1 in Hispanic marketing, it's going to be way more efficient than if you throw it to the general market fund, right? So if anyone else wants to chime in, but I think it's.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what you're saying, Kim, and something your team does really well is, my answer was exactly the same one, money. You look at Trinidad numbers and it's like you would have to be, you know, have a very strong reason not to want that piece, you know, that piece of the pie. And something that Quim does in his team very well is they do an analysis of the size of the prize. And I think that sometimes every time Quim and his team present that, you can see that it motivates the CMO or whoever we're talking, saying it makes sense, right? If they walk already with an intention to build and connect with this consumer, when Quim presents the opportunity and the size of the price of how much growth they can achieve in 3, 6, 1 year, it's really something that they get excited, and the results are there, right? Like when the time comes, when the year passes, those sales are coming in and it's rising. Now, how we do it right, whether it's just a bank teller or or touching with culture, that's another thing. That's things we need to work on.
Well, I'll make it a hat trick then, because I agree. It's all about money. And when I talk about it, sometimes it's just looking at your own respective sales data. You know who your demographics coming in. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes when you look below the top line and you go 1 or 2 levels in, then you're able to see and extract those powerful insights that says, do you know what? If I have a good CRM system, or if I can see this type of audience coming in, more than likely, almost every time, the Hispanic consumer will overperform than what we would consider your general population. And so when you go into your respective regions, whether again, you're in New York, you know, Dallas, Texas, LA, you go in and you go into a Hispanic dense population. I agree with Kim. The size of the prize is there. And if you are able to, more than likely, you may be not capitalizing to its full effectiveness, and just a minor tweak can open up the floodgates and the revenue streams, and more importantly, the folks coming into your doors.
So if you all three agree that money and growing the business is the main reason, why don't we have more corporations doing Hispanic marketing strategies? Why are there only a few of them doing it?
I think they all think they're addressing that audience. Like some of them might think that, well, with, I'm reaching them with my general market efforts because, the media impacts are going to, Hispanic people too. So why should I do, more? But I believe, I'm more positive like that. I want to believe, I moved to the US 10 years ago almost. And then back then I saw tons of resistance. Like you had to convince people, right? Now I'm seeing more and more a shift in marketing, in the sense that we have to convince less clients to address Hispanics, but I would say not educate, but telling them how to do that properly and in an efficient way. So that's the shift that I'm starting to see. And there's a third step that it's coming along on the more advanced clients, which is, leading your general market efforts or whatever you do with multicultural insights. Because there's tons of cool ideas coming from the Hispanic culture or from the African American culture that also resonate across, all spectrums.
Yeah.
Anyone else wants to?
No, I agree. I mean, I think those who are not, I mean, I think everybody says they're doing it. It's a little bit like the story you shared with us, Jorge. Like, nobody would admittedly say, I'm not interested in that. How they're doing it, I think, is what makes a difference. And the reality also is that budgets are not infinite, right? Like and a lot of these markets try to figure out how to make their budgets more effective, or use more effectively. And sadly, some of them come to the conclusion that just going to general market sometimes is the answer. But they forget that they are, secluding not only that piece economically, but they're also secluding to connect and leaving aside a big part of the population. Which, by the way, if we say money, I would add a little layer to that, which is in the time of DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It speaks a lot about your company to be able to reach out and have a connection with the Hispanic market that goes beyond just sales, right? So, so I think they're trying. I think they need guide to how to do it, and the willingness, I think, is there. Is just the openness sometimes, and how we sell it in is what makes a difference.
The only point that I would add, and I agree wholeheartedly with both, is how to change or how to shift the conversation, right, to that more, to get away from just a niche Hispanic marketing, and to really shift the mindset that Kim mentioned into more of a multicultural marketing, because we're talking to all the consumers, right? And so what is the most effective way that we can do this? And, and that it's seamless, because if people are naturally resistant to change, like this is how we're going to have to do it from now going forward, because Trinidad, that's it, the demographics are going sky, and they're going to have a natural reaction, adverse reaction to that. But rather shift the conversation and say, let's be inclusive. I love that DNI.com. Yes, let's be inclusive. Let's capture as wide a net, but yet targeted net as we can, a relevant net. And I think that if we can have success in the boardroom to guiding them there with a right action plan as they laid out, I think that we would see more corporations be on the right path to how to better connect with this relevant audience.
Mm-hmm. So in your heads, the arguments of money and the arguments of business growth need to be, also additioned with some of these thoughts for companies, in which has to do with future and the new generations, consumer habits. One of the things that we have seen as a magazine, and we already have 20 years here, so we've been seeing 3 decennial census so far. So when we started, we were enjoying the bonanza that created the year of the 2000 census, right? And that was really good. I remember going to advertising agencies myself with a magazine, and they were very avid to know about Hispanic publications and Latino publications and this and that. And then as the decade started, the kind of the the emotion or the excitement started going down a little bit, and it washed it out. And then when the census of the 2010 came, again, we saw that. And I don't know if you have had the same experience, but what do you think happens? Why does it stay like in a growing pattern instead of going like this? What could be those factors that could help people that are looking or watching this webinar to figure out what to do to maintain a growing path instead of just going by different momentums or different phenomenons or very specific time?
I mean, I can start. I mean, I think something that's going to help. And I remember 2000s. I started in the Hispanic market 20 years ago, and I remember, all my buddies coming out of school from marketing and advertising, trying to get a job, and they were having a hard time. And I wasn't the Hispanic. I positioned myself as Hispanic, and there was a lot of jobs to be done. And there was, like you said, bonanza without a doubt. Something that has changed that might keep that frenesí, if you will, or that kind of vibe going, is that there's more data now more than ever, right? Trinidad showed some numbers that were super interesting, Quim as well. And before, maybe we were going with the census and maybe we we're going for TV ratings. Now we have so many data touch points that we're generating constantly, whether it's digital user behavior, whether it's stuff that companies like Facebook or Google are putting out there, not necessarily on, right now privacy is a big topic, but in general, right, of trends of behavior and population. I think that, in my opinion, and this is just a personal opinion, that might keep that trend going up as far as perception of how important this market is versus having those ups and downs and waiting for the next census to come in. That's a thought there.
Any other comment on that point? Now, I wanna jump now a little bit into your own experiences of what has worked better with Hispanic consumers over the years. And we must know also that it is true. I mean, and many of you could remember, 20, maybe 30 years ago, I would say, they started Hispanic agencies only by translating American or English-speaking ads, right? Companies like AT&T and Colgate and all those, the only thing they did was just translating ads to Spanish. And the first ever, Hispanic advertisers in LA and in Miami and in New York and Chicago were very, very, vivacious and smart guys, convincing all these corporations that just translate. And then they started going into after the culture and all that. But we see trends, and we see the trend of trying to sell products, but also we see trends now, especially the dedicated or directed to younger generations to support what you were telling about the new generations that are more into not only trying to sell on a specific product, like drink Coca-Cola or have a hamburger this weekend or buy this car, but they are more into creating the culture of that company and showing that company as a friendly company for minorities and a very inclusive, company that welcomes all avenues of thinking and behaving and interests and all that. How do you see these two trends that are going out everywhere?
I think what's happening with what Pancho mentioned about we have more access to data. We also have more opportunities to reach out to our clients and customers and whatnot. And then the consequence of that is that they have become more demanding, right? A brand right now, it's almost like a person. It needs to have a personality. It needs to have a point of view on almost every point on social issue, because silence says something. We've been trying to convince on, for the past year or year and a half on, all those particular social cases that you all can imagine, to comment. Like you have to have a point of view, right? And that's the expectation. Brands are, they need to have, a point of view and a purpose also. And that purpose needs to be, I would say, relevant and poignant for multicultural audiences, because America is multicultural, right? It's not just about, selling stuff. It's not about, making more sandwiches and selling more sodas. Now, you have to look higher and ask yourselves as a business, well, what am I doing to change the world? And is this relevant for this multicultural audience?
No, I agree. I think, right now I'm advising for corporate social responsibility, right? And really just because companies, especially on the younger generations, may view a brand as a person, right? And what is your voice? What is, where are you in this world? Because if you expect me to consume your products, do you believe the same things that I do? I mean, and we see shifts in the African-American community, very true in the Hispanic community. And it should just be a given. If I support, just speaking Spanish, or if I, like L3 and play nothing but, those are nice, but that's not what I'm driving at. It's really just, where do you stand on certain issues? And as a local business, that doesn't, that may just translate to, are you part of your community? Do you hire within your community? Do you participate in local festivals or events? I mean, but at least the community understands who you are. More importantly, they see your business as a person that they can trust, and they learn to build a relationship with. So for me, it's really about that trust building and building a relationship with the brand that goes beyond the sale.
What do you think, in short words, what is like the key main things that attracts the Hispanic consumers? What are those elements that should be present in most of the strategies marketing Hispanics?
I would say they're no different from any other consumer. Like if we want to track them, you have to offer, to them something relevant. You have to have empathy. Like don't talk about me, my brand, right? Talk about them, give them something relevant, and do it with a, with a tone of voice and a personality that connects with them, and hopefully offer them some sense of, an emotional, I would say, higher purpose that they can be excited about, aside from, consuming and giving you money. Mm-hmm. And in a cultural relevant way. And that means, understanding, Hispanic culture fully, and not using stereotypes, because that's, that's a no-go.
Okay, now I have some questions that have been arriving. We have one that I think is very interesting. How about political marketing? What is the differences? I mean, we've been talking about consumer products marketing and cultural trends, but how about political marketing? And I guess this person is right. I mean, we just passed one of the more exciting and fighting and very, very intense periods in political American life. And so what do you have to say about that?
If you don't mind, I'll jump in here, only because it's I've done just some research, because I was of the same opinion. And what the stat that jumped out at me is 80, almost 90%, the campaigns don't even engage with Hispanic communities. I mean, and it's a couple of points below even the African American communities. So for me, if you're going to talk about political marketing, make the attempt just to connect a phone call, an email, a direct mail. I mean, when you talk about these three basic, and usually are at the core of a political campaign, that they fail, they fail because they haven't done any of those three very simple initiatives. So I would start with just make the attempt, because if it's 80 or 90% as of last year in reaching these demographics that are, as I said, every 30 seconds, Latinos turning 18, it's an important voting block, whatever, and they should just make that first step.
Also, two important things to take into account when it comes to the Hispanic blog is give them some sense of community. It's like, you know, why my option is going to be good for your community. And that doesn't mean necessarily all Hispanics, because they might not, a Mexican might not care about a Dominican living in New Jersey, right? But, you know, your close community, your close Hispanic community, that's really important to them. And also, give them a positive message. Like, you know, Hispanics, and it might seem a topic, but it's true. They want to love, they want to see an horizon of hope and happiness, right? And so that's very important. You have to give them that promise too.
Okay. Pancho, do you want to say something there or not?
No, I mean, I completely agree. I think of this a lot. I think there has been a reckoning of the power that Hispanics have to sway the vote. I think it's still a white space. It's like it hasn't been addressed, like Trinidad was saying. And I think, you know, what Quim is saying is like connect with their issues. Like think of what matters to them, and not just think about it as Spanish or Vicente Fernandez. Is like as a whole, thinking 100% and 100%. What does it mean to them if you're working with any other platforms? I had the opportunity to do phone banks in this past election just to learn, right? Like just to be in that experience. And it was very eye-opening to me to see the reaction when either I connected with language or I connected with some sort of Latino or Hispanic, what I would think talking to them, cultural touch point. So I think it's still something for the taking and a great opportunity for marketers to engage with.
Yeah, and it's very needed because, I mean, many people said that the part of the disengagement of the Latino population in voting and political participation is that precisely the politicians are not having very clear the ways, and perhaps they are making the same mistakes that you attach to corporate America or to companies, that they also feel that one size fits all and they don't know where to start, and they think that just speaking Spanish will be enough to attract Doña Conchita to vote for him or her, or, you know.
That was eye-opening with the Florida vote, I would say, right? Like you saw that not everybody thought the same way, that there's a range of thinking and what's important to them. So I think that was eye-opening for the country and for the world if I go a little bit farther.
Exactly. Okay, we have a question. I mean, we have time for one more question, and we have another, but this question will kind of maybe give the opportunity for the three of you to say something and kind of wrap up from your standpoint, because this participant is asking us, could you give any examples of the work that you have done that has been successful with brands into the Hispanic markets? I don't know who wants to start.
Yeah, for me, and I'll just jump in. Yeah, I mean, it goes back in very early in my career, where again, it's you know, for example, brick and mortar here in Dallas, Texas. You know, we had 6, 8 different brick and mortar retail locations. Bottom line was, you know, we rolled out this thing called FiOS, this is an internet package, right? And we offered the top of the top, you know, $500 package for what speeds we would laugh at today, but that's income. That's another story. Mm-hmm. So we assumed that the market would jump all over this, but the market didn't understand what internet speeds. We were very much in our infancy. What got me into Hispanic marketing and the potential was where I'm going is, and there's 3 what we call wire centers, or 3 areas that were in very Hispanic dense locations. And, you know, when we were looking at that time, 60, 70, 80% penetration where our retail locations were at, these markets, these 3 Hispanic markets, were probably 15, maybe pushing 20% at best. So we asked why. Well, when you started digging into the data and looking at your community, these, you know, the majority of the community, you know, around a 10-mile radius, were paying $500 just in rent. When I looked into the store, nobody spoke Spanish. When I looked at the advertising, it was all in English. And it had no, not only that had no cultural relationship, but, you know, they didn't care for the packages, you know, that we were offering at the time. So we looked, and of course, working with sales, said, okay, we're gonna obviously put bilingual customers in. We're gonna refresh the creative and put an offering price point to make it not only more affordable, but put content. At the time, it was a lot of the boxing matches were hot and water, you know, heavy. So we said we can, you know, make the content relevant because everybody at the time wanted to watch the next La Hoya fight or whatever it was at the time. So we marketed in that context. Next thing you know, 10, 15, 20% penetration growth started to creep up. But it was, the main point was making it relevant, understanding our community and what they realistically could afford and what they desired.
Okay.
I was going to say I'm proud of all my babies equally, but we know that's not true, right? So no, I'm going to talk about you know, one that we're particularly proud of, which is our relationship with the Home Depot. You know, it's been going on for many years, and you know, at some point they had the epiphany of the Hispanic market, but they're great clients because they, you know, they recognize that they had to do something specific for that market very early in the game. And so, you know, at every opportunity, when we need to talk about, you know, spring and your backyard and doing all that work, or repainting your house and colors, we always think, well, what's the particular cultural nuance when it comes to colors, and what's the impact on, you know, on Hispanics? Or but that's not what I'm most proud of. And I'm, you know, and I'm also proud about the fact that we've been, you know, for Hispanics, we've been dominating Lowe's for, you know, years and years to go. I'm mostly, you know, particularly proud about, you know, those instances, sorry, where our work and our insights have influenced the overall general market work. And here's an example. So we were discussing some options for spring, for backyard work, and getting it, you know, back to, and we were sharing, you know, insights about, well, Hispanics love, you know, bringing as many people as possible in their backyards and throw great parties. And we were showing examples. And there was a white guy from our agency in the room saying, I would love to have that on my house too. And so we realized that that was cool for everyone, not just for Hispanics. And so that influenced the general market work too. So, and I want to see more and more of that, you know, on all brands, on all clients, like cool African-American or Asian insights artists, like contaminating and influencing, you know, the overall messages of brands.
Great story too. Thank you very much, Quim.
Yeah, I mean, I have, and I don't know how we're doing on time, but I can share one. If,
2 minutes.
okay, I think one, and again, it's one that I came into Lerma, and again, it's Quim's work, team's work, but it was very exciting to me because I was just new into Lerma, and I saw it with Metro PCS at the time, now Metro by T-Mobile. And it has to do also with distributors and franchises within this space. But they moved the idea and the world of prepaid service from being a world and something of shame, of like, okay, I'm going to buy my prepaid thing, and put, which I believe it's a huge Hispanic insight when Quim presented it to me, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. From shame to pride and outsmarting the system, right? Like being más abusados, más inteligentes, like kind of moving into being a more clever way of consuming wireless. So I think, again, going back to thinking of an insight, thinking of how we think, how we came to this country with the optimism and the idea of moving around the system to get things done. I think that campaign is one of the ones that I was happy to participate and happy to bring to life in the digital space.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I remember all these cases because you know, I've been here for 20 years also, and the magazine has been doing some great work. And I need to say that probably someone needs to be writing a book on the story on how Hispanic marketing started and how has it evolved in this country, because it is really a unique phenomenon in the world. And I think
Okay,
that
go for
many
it.
years from now,
Do it. Write that book.
well, I'm not that expert, but you know, it's very interesting. And you know, marketers are the ones who can change the culture, right? Definitely. So I think your visions and your input onto this matter has been great so far. And I just have to say thank you very much to the three of you, because this has been a wonderful webinar full of things. We are finishing, and I think that, I mean, I want to say I could continue for hours making questions and making comments, and I'm sure you too, but we only have 1 hour. So I am really grateful for your time, for your concepts, for your flexibility participating. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for our participants, we will be back in 1 minute with David Spirito from Avocados from Mexico, to also have a chat about brands and marketing to Hispanics. And we'll be back in 1 minute.
Hello to David, he's our client.
Good, man. Hi, Francisco. How you doing, man?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm busy. I mean, you know, planning season and everything going on. So we're definitely chugging along. But this is going to be great. Definitely love the invitation to speak here at this forum, and really looking forward to talking to you guys.
Amazing. No, well, so happy to see you here, and I know that you guys have amazing plans from what I heard. So good luck, and I guess we'll be in touch next week, David.
I'll see you, man. Take care, bud.
Good to see you around. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, so we're back. Probably it was less than a minute, but given the fact that our next guest, David Spirito, is already here, and I am very, very happy to welcome him to this webinar or this chat, because not only he has done a wonderful job in the Avocados from Mexico, he's, you know, one of the geniuses behind that brand and that company that has, I want to say, that has changed the food culture in this country. And believe me, to do that is very, very difficult. So it is my pleasure to welcome David Spirito. He is the Senior Director of Culinary and Food Service for Avocados from Mexico. And David is also a chef and has more than 25 years of experience in the hospitality industry. David leads fresh avocado innovation, education, and inspiration by helping put fresh, delicious avocados on menus across the country. He manages Avocados from Mexico Culinary Center, the Avo Eatery, which is a very, very interesting new concept that he will be able to maybe talk a little bit about that. And education and training programs and food service communications, the Fresh Shield program, culinary innovation initiatives, and the partnerships with food service operators. So, David, should I call you Mr. Avocado?
Might be the nicest thing I've been called lately, but no, David's fine. Thank you for the warm introduction.
Sure. Well, you know, when I am saying that avocado has, the product itself has changed the food culture in this country, I am saying it with all the proof and all the data that I have been reading, and you can just see it everywhere. I mean, there's not a supermarket in at least, you know, half of the country that don't have guacamole ready to be eaten, and avocados out there, and it, you know, it's being all over. So and Avocados from Mexico is the company behind that effort, and you started many, many years ago. So could you give us a little bit of the background of the company, and how was it formed, and what is the main purpose?
Yeah, and I'll speak mostly for the food service side that I represent, but we're a checkoff program of the USDA, and so we incentivize companies out there financially to utilize and to sell fresh Mexican avocado, and one of the big things that we do as a company, working with our importers and working with our growers, is educate our operators. As you mentioned, avocados are everywhere. Thank God for the avocado toast. Thank God for Instagram. Thank God for social media. They've done wonders for us. But what we've done is we've understood that operators have had a challenge taking those ideas, and especially an avocado, a fresh avocado, and translating those to the consumer, the patron, and to sales. And so a lot of what I do within food service and culinary is not only educate the operators, but innovate with them. And so, as I'm looking at the logos over your shoulder, we've worked with a good number of those companies, but really going in and saying, listen, here's your consumer base, here's who you're targeting, here's the information we have, here's what we understand they like, and that's through Technomic or Data Essentials data. And then let's innovate together. Let's work together to really, hit that target for not only your current guest, but your next generation guest. And that's what we really built our food service team on. I've been with AFM now 2 years, and prior to being with AFM, Avocados from Mexico, I used Avocados from Mexico as an arm of my innovation, where they would come into my test kitchen, and I would, treat them just like one of my team. Here's your innovation brief. Here's what I want you to work on, and here's how we're going to do it. And the items that were developed really good, and they sold well, and they did well, and they actually brought me a new guest that I didn't have in my building at the time. That's what we're continuing to do today. We're getting away from being a transactional partner of, thank you very much, the deal's done, to, well, how do we partner with you on an annual basis? How do we become more of your marketing calendar? How do we really drive the insights and innovation that your company's looking for, and be more of a resource instead of just, here's the promotion. What COVID did for us at Avocados from Mexico was really showcase our strength. As operators were reaching out to us and saying, listen, we can't work fast enough right now on a reduced menu. We can't work fast enough right now with the labor challenges out there. What can we do? We became a labor assistance. We became an innovation arm. We became data central. We led thought leadership with to-go packaging. We led thought leadership on delivery, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Postmates, so and so. So again, we've become that big resource for a lot of companies, and that's what's going to carry us the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about, there's one thing which is the brand of Avocados from Mexico. But on the other side, what you are really trying to put out there is a fruit, right? It's a fruit that has some characteristics that have been, those specific characteristics have been part of the success of the marketing strategies that Avocados from Mexico has had. Could you elaborate a little bit on that characteristics of the avocado itself, and how has been like one of the perfect products to market, if I may say that?
Yeah. It's man, I every time I have a tough day, I think about what I do, right? And I'm helping promote the one of the top fruits in the world, and it's a beautiful fruit. We represent only avocados from Mexico, only avocados from Michoacan. And, a lot of the fruit quality coming out of Michoacan, it has a lot of grading behind it, has a lot of stipulation. So again, we have a much higher fat content than a lot of the other avocados out there. Our grading system's a little bit more, regimented. So as we're working with operators, we know that we're talking about the premier avocado in the world, right? Not only from the creaminess and the texture and that beautiful green color, to the outside. What does it look like? From the ridging on the avocado, is it a number 1 fruit or a number 2 fruit? What is it stage 1 being really firm, or stage 5 being being very soft. But we know we have something there. And when we talk to operators about the fruit and the qualities, we can go down many avenues, Jorge. We can talk about health benefits. It's one of the healthiest items you can eat. We can talk about dietary. Well, if you have a dietary issue, avocado is really something. Or we can talk about Instagram, destination worthy food that lends itself in there. Again, going back to being a resource, if we're working with the Green Bay Packers and their training department and developing food for their players, well, we're very dietitian focused. We're very health focused. If we're working with, I'll pick a logo here, 7-Eleven and Laredo Taco, and we just got done doing a pilot test with them in 2 locations. We talked about trend. We talked about authenticity. We talked about if you're going to have these style tacos, you need to have this kind. So again, we allow the conversation to flow, and then we inject ourselves where we feel needed. But it's not tough getting in front of operators or partners when you have such a great fruit. There's never a bad day out there when you're working with avocados from Mexico.
I guess, yeah, it would be my favorite thing to eat also. But how difficult has been to put avocados in restaurants and QSR concepts and in menus? Because I think that there has been a great work from you and your team doing these over the past years.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been a challenge, and that was probably one of the unexpected things. That I didn't foresee joining AFM or this role was how difficult it is in some companies. We've done a lot of, as I go back to innovate or educate, we've done a lot of third-party consumer work or testing that shows overwhelmingly your patrons, the logo's patrons, prefer fresh to processed or frozen, right? 77% marker, which is huge. But when you have that ammunition or that story to tell, you need an ear. You need someone to listen that listens to that. And if someone's not going to listen, it's a tough sell. It's a tough proposal. So what we try to do is influence, right? We'll work with someone, build a business case, and say, hey guys, for those that say we can't do that, look at what we've done. Jorge, prior to joining 2 years ago, I'll even go 3 years ago, we had 1 QSR account, one. Right. And the misnomer is that I don't have the labor to do fresh. My guest doesn't want fresh. Well, today, we have 5 accounts and it's growing. Right. And again, very large taco chain out of the West Coast is our number one customer. They put avocado in everything. And through the pandemic, through the drive-through window, they're number one, right? Their share is through the roof, and it's all because of fresh Mexican avocado. Not all because, but a good part of it, and that's what the guest wants. But it's still tough to this day. We know there's operators out there that just won't open the door for us, and so that's fine. If that's not in your menu strategy, that's fine. Allow me just to send you our information. If it ever changes, let us get back in there. And we found our way getting back into these accounts. We found our way getting face to face. We've done it through franchise groups. We've worked with local franchisees and said, let us do a test. We'll pay for the test. We'll pay for the product. We'll pay for the reprinting of the menu. Let us show you what your consumers want. And then we do it one franchisee at a time. But yeah, that's really our method. We try not to be pushy because that's not what we do, right? We know we have a really good product, so we don't have to be pushy. But we just want to make sure we're getting in front and saying, listen, if it's innovation, let us work on that. If it's education, let us educate you and let us show you what your guests want, and we can help you deliver that.
Okay. Now, share with us a little bit of the culinary center of avocados, because I know that's something really innovative, and there's not many other products that have developed, a culinary center just for one single fruit, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And as we are the leader in the produce industry, and I'll even say, coming from casual dining, coming from the hotel world, we're not just the leader in the produce industry. We're the leader in food service, and our headquarters, or our test kitchen, our culinary center, is in Los Colinas, in Irving, right off 114, very close to the airport. We have a full test kitchen in the back. In the front, we have seating for up to 40 people. We have flat screen TVs around the culinary center. So as we're doing demos, we have live camera feeds that can project around. So it's really like a classroom setting. The culinary center is wired for sound. So as we're doing presentations, whether it's in person or virtual, we can conduct that. And to that point, Jorge, when COVID hit, we were kind of, I'll be honest, I was freaking out a little bit because, what we do and what we do best is work in front of the operator. Here, I made this for you, taste it, right? That was our strength. What our culinary center did was it allowed us to do innovation showings just the way we're doing today in our culinary center because we have those virtual capabilities. We would send you a kit in the mail that had avocados and pre-prepped items. So as I'm making it in the culinary center, I say, okay, Jorge, open up box number 2. That's going to be your yuzu guacamole. Add your diced avocado. Add that. Everything was pre-prepped for you. So again, you can just taste it. That was huge for us. We netted some great promotions with operators we didn't have an opportunity to do that with because of our culinary center capabilities. So again, very close to the airport, great capabilities. We hold photo shoots in there. We've videotaped commercials, live cooking segments, so on and so forth. We wrote a cookbook in there. So again, it's probably as good or better than any other culinary center I've been to.
Now, you also have the Avo Eatery.
Yeah.
Which is, I haven't been able to visit it. It is in Dallas,
yes.
Texas also. But how did you came with that idea, and what kind of dishes or recipes do you have there?
Yeah, no, and man, if I knew that, you and I would be eating lunch there today together. But no, it's down in Trinity Groves. We have a great operator partner down there in Phil Romano. Phil Romano from his heyday of being a restaurant operator. So we've been open now just over a year. We opened right before the pandemic in February last year. But what it is it's really an avocado incubator, right? We try not to classify ourselves what kind of restaurant it is because we do a lot of testing in there. For example, when we opened the restaurant, it not only has avocado sprinkled throughout the food menu, but also in the beverages. So we have a great Avo Rita, we have a great Avo Colado, so on and so forth. And they're all not green frothy drinks, right? There's really some thought and mixology involved. When we talk to operators, we bring up Avo Eatery because we want them to know that we have skin in the game. We're not just selling a product, we're operating a restaurant as well. And so we're going through the same challenges that you are as an operator. Well, what we've seen over the last couple months is the Avo Rita that we launched at Avo Eatery, that we tested, is now being launched nationally by a very large breakfast chain as part of their brunch menu. Our Avo Burger that we launched at Avo Eatery is now being launched by a very large burger operator out there. So again, we're seeing this Avo incubator strategy come to life. A very large sandwich chain out there that we did an innovation showing for last month, we'll be testing 3 of their sandwiches at Avo Eatery so we can actually get live feedback and live data. That's really the goal of Avo Eatery. Now, the other goal is, as a chef, it allows me a playground, right? It allows me to take items that operators are like, I don't know if that's going to work. Well, let's put it in there. Let's see how it performs. Let's see what it does. And so now I can go to operators and see those sliced breaded avocado slices that you said would never work. Well, that's our #1 seller. So let me show you how we did that. And again, it allows us to build a business case behind most to every menu item we do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me make some space for a couple of questions that have come that could be interesting and that related to some topics that you already covered. But one question is asking, why do you work only with avocados from Mexico and no other countries? Because I know there's many other avocado styles in the market.
Yeah, great question. So we don't even work with Californian avocados. We work only with fresh Mexican avocados because we're a checkoff program from the USDA. We are funded by the USDA. So every pound of avocados that is imported over, we get a certain percentage of it's really pennies, but that's what funds us to help grow the fresh Mexican avocado volume here in the United States. So again, there are companies out there that work for Peru. We're very good friends with the California Avocado Commission, so on and so forth, but we only represent fresh Mexican avocados from Michoacan.
So another question related to that is, are you planning to go and promote the Mexican avocado in other parts of the world?
Yeah, so you will notice that I actually saw an Avocados from Mexico Canadian commercial the other day on YouTube. Avocados from Mexico has a division through Mejia, the Mexican Haas Avocado Importers Association, that imports into Canada. We import around the world, and through around the world, you can actually import fresh Mexican avocados from Jalisco. Only in the United States can we import through Michoacan. It's a bill that was signed years ago. According to lore out there, there's a bill on the president's desk ready to get signed today to allow us to import through Jalisco. I've heard that for the last couple of years. It's not happened. So we really only focus on Michoacan right now and import it. But we do send avocados around the world. That just doesn't fall under my responsibility or what I'm paid to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we want to sophisticate a little bit of the avocado consumption, I remember, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I mean, eating guacamole was not that fancy, right?
Yeah.
And now you have the avocado toast being served at the most prestigious hotels in New York or Miami or LA.
Yeah.
How this culture was built? What are the elements? Because it could be, I guess that for people that are looking watching this streaming, they have interest in the franchise business. There's products and brands involved in these, and maybe there is the story there in which there are some elements that we can be applying to other products and services that could work.
Yeah, a quick story. So I grew up in Connecticut, and I did not know what an avocado was until probably my sophomore year of college, when I went out to Scottsdale, Arizona to work in a hotel. Never saw an avocado before in my life, had no idea how to use it. And that was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now, obviously, consumption has grown. And we are able to spread ideas through the internet like wildfire. And you'll see trends happening faster. You'll see, inception is a lot faster and bigger. I mean, there's just, as you go through the flavor wheel, things happen a lot faster with social media. It's not uncommon to see, I don't want to label it as, not fancy food become popular, but there's chefs out there every day that are taking items like avocados and slicing it paper thin and freeze drying it and creating a powder, or serving it with beluga caviar because it takes on the same fat content and the mouthfeel. People are just open to newer things, and avocados are more prevalent today as we're going to increase 2.5 billion pounds this year of fresh Mexican avocados. That grows every year because we're finding new ways to use them. Oh, and by the way, as we're finding new ways to use them, we're also educating our consumers that, actually, when you make a peanut butter and Nutella sandwich, instead of bananas in there, put avocados. It's healthier and it tastes better, or blah, blah, blah. Or if you love guacamole, you should try it with crumbled bacon on top. You should try it with potato chips and so on. And so, again, as we're educating people to what do you like to eat, have you tried it with avocados, you'll see that continue to grow. You'll see more and more of that cycle go on. And again, I'll take, an Asian food, right? And years ago, Asian food was served to you in a little white box that you ordered through delivery with fortune cookies. Today, there's more 4-star Chinese Asian restaurants out there than ever before. You have a noodle craze, you have an egg roll craze, so on and so forth. But again, social media has helped fuel this kind of resurgence or energy behind us. And we don't see it going away with avocados. We actually see more operators coming to us and saying, hey, have you tried this? Here's what we've done. And then, we brainstorm and develop the next best thing. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think we can start wrapping up a little bit. And I want to ask you to maybe take out the crystal ball and maybe figure out what do you envision that is the future of avocado and the culture of the avocado maybe not only in the US, but in the world. What is your sense, your data or the things that where are you imagining that or these would be in 10 or 15 years from now?
Yeah, and just like most trends globally, it starts here in America, right? And then it goes outward. And since we have this huge wave right now, this huge green wave of avocado here in the United States, I see it going outward, right? And I see it going outward. You're going to get a lot of your Latin-based countries that are like, yeah, we get it. We grow avocados. We know it. Well, you have a whole Asian community that's still starting right now of how does avocado play within my diet? Mm-hmm. Avocado pairs great with Asian flavors. You have a whole European community right now that is increasing their imports daily on fresh avocado. So you're going to see that consistently grow, but you're going to see great chefs over there, just like me over here. How do we really develop it to our profile? How do we make avocados our own? That segues into, the American culture. Well, generationally, right, in the 50s and 60s, spaghetti was foreign to Americans, right? Like what are you putting ketchup on noodles? Like it was foreign. Then pizza, and then these different foods were foreign. Well, now they've been adapted as our own, right? It's as American as apple pie. I do foresee avocados continuing to grow, and I do see it's going to be as American as guacamole. Guacamole is the #1 consumed item on the Super Bowl. There is nothing more American than tailgating or partying at home with the Super Bowl. And we're part of that already. We want to start being we want to be largely in part of, family activities during the holidays. And that's our goal, really start the traditions with avocados. But I continue seeing it grow.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, you all this time, you have making us hungry. Right, with all these stories, and I'm just picturing and imagining my next guacamole and my next avocado toast. That we love it at home, by the way. But
well, it's definitely going to be at Avo Eatery. Now that I know you've not been there, now I'm going to host you down there and show you all of our great avocado items.
I need to go. Yes, because it's something in this culture that we're living today that you cannot miss. As you were saying, is something that is unique in the world. You won't find anything like that anywhere else. Yeah. So I need to go. That's in my bucket list. Believe me, on things to do right now. So, but for now, David, I think this has been very, very enlightening. I believe it's a great product. I believe you guys have a great brand in your hands that you yourselves have built. And is been making happy many people in the world, not only the consumers, but the producers and the importers and the distributors, and everybody has been made happy by the avocado. So I want just to say thank you for participating today. I know it was last minute. I really appreciate that flexibility that you had, and we're always happy. And I believe that this franchise industry, and many of the people that are regular attendees of this event will consider every day more and more the fact that those 5 partners that you already have need to be more. And I don't see any reason why we start selling pizzas with avocado and fried chicken with avocado and fried avocado and whatever we can say. But in the meantime, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here. And again, we've been talking for over a year. I'm very happy we had the opportunity to actually connect today. So thank you.
No. All right. Thank you. And for all our friends, and this concludes this segment of the Franchise Symposium for today. In the following days, we are going to send you the links to all the conferences that have been recorded, of course, for if you want to go to see them again, or you want to record them or download them, you will be allowed, and you will be invited to do that. But just right now, I just want to say thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you to Young Brands. Thank you to Avocados from Mexico, of course, 7-Eleven, Foley, and the Small Business Administration, and the IFA, the International Franchise Association. These organizations have been responsible for helping us Latino leaders to put together these Latino Franchise Symposium for the 7th year. And the amount of content that we were able to produce over these 5 days was amazing, and was, I think, it was unique in many senses. We heard from experts on brand equity, in how to take care of brands, and how the brand can become a big asset of any franchise business. We also heard about experts on commercial sites, and how to finance, the franchise business, how to enter, what are those, let's say, checklists that you need to have, all the perils of having how to negotiate and work with the banks and the finance companies were kind of cleared in the webinar that we had last Tuesday. And then we had the fantastic story of Don Pancho Ochoa, which is the founder of a very famous franchise, El Pollo Loco, and now owner of Taco Palenque, a large taco brand, expanding specifically in the South and through Texas. And then we also heard from the efforts that the International Franchise Association is doing to promote diversity and inclusion, and explore new markets, and give opportunities in this industry to everybody. We also heard from Enrique Ramirez, the global, the general manager for the Americas, Latin America, and for Iberia, Spain, for Pizza Hut, and all the different cultures of making business, and how to sell pizzas in China and in Singapore and Africa. So it was really interesting. And also yesterday we had Mike Lacosta, who is a common personality, a common attendee, not only a speaker in this Latino Franchise Symposium, who updated us with many facts and ethnic and demographics, coming down from the census and from some other sources. And I think he was a great illustration, or drawing a very good landscape to understand this morning's Hispanic marketing webinar from our friends in Lerma, Pancho Cardenas and Quim Hill, and also from Trinidad Aguirre, who helped us to understand how is it to make marketing in Hispanic markets, especially with some franchise brands. And with this last one, with our good friend from Avocados from Mexico, David Spirito. So with this, I am Jorge Ferraez, a publisher of Latino Leaders Magazine. I really appreciate all of you watching the Latino Franchise Symposium, and I look forward to see you next year, hopefully in person, and have a great weekend, and thank you very much for watching us.